Praise ye the Lord, all creatures, he who did make the mountains, he who did make the woods and fields, he who made the sky. Praise him who gave us gladness, praise him who fills our hearts with song, praise him who lifts their notes on high, there where earthly hopes belong. Praise ye the Lord, all creatures, he who did make the seasons, he who did make the hush of night, he who made the sun. Praise him who gave us laughter, praise him who taught our hearts to love, praise him and thank him, everyone, seek him in his light above. Praise him who gave us laughter, praise him who taught our hearts to love, praise him and thank him, everyone, seek him in his light above.
I'd like to welcome all of you this morning gathered here at Ananda Village in the Temple of Light, and those of you viewing online. I am Nayaswami Maria, and I'm substituting for Anandi this morning, and with me is Nayaswami Bharat, and he'll be giving the inspirational talk. I'm going to read now from Rays of the One Light, and these are weekly commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible, written by Swami Kriyananda. And this is chapter 48, entitled The Law of Karma, Bondage or Soul Release. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The epistle of St. Paul to the Galatians contains this oft-quoted statement: "Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa tells a story from the life of the Benares saint Trilanga Swamy. A skeptic once determined to expose Trilanga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium lime mixture used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. "Master," the materialist said, in mock reverence, "I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it." Trilanga unhesitatingly drained to the last drop the container full of burning lime. In a few minutes, the evildoer fell to the ground in agony. "Help, Swami, help," he cried. "I am on fire. Forgive me, forgive my wicked test." The great yogi broke his habitual silence. "Scoffer," he said, "you did not realize when you offered me poison that my life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never again play tricks on anyone." The well-purged sinner, healed by Trilanga's words, slunk feebly away. Yogananda goes on to say, the reversal of pain was not due to any volition of the master, but came about through unerring application of the law of justice, which upholds creation's farthest swinging orb. Men of God realization, like Trilanga, allow the divine law to operate instantaneously. They have banished forever all thwarting cross-currents of ego. Not by reason alone, but by self-realization, are the ins and outs of destiny fully understood. Their web, though tied forever to the post of ego motivation, is too intricate to be perceived as a single thread. Only great masters can see it with clarity. It is visible to them in all its workings, not from within the tangle, but from above in superconsciousness. As Sri Krishna said in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he who beholds inaction in action, and action in inaction, is wise among men. He is one with the Spirit. He has attained the true goal of action, perfect freedom. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good morning. I'd like to read from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. O infinite alchemist, spiritualize our weaknesses into strength, and our wrong thoughts into right thoughts. Grow thou a flower divine understanding from every seed of activity. With the magic wand of foresight given by thee, teach us to transmute the ugly imps of selfish ambition into fairies of all-serving noble aspirations. Train, Lord, each stallion of desire to become a champion racing for thine abode. Transfer our base ignorance into the gold of wisdom, that it become a liquid stream of spiritual gold, rushing steadily to thy shore. It's often said that life is a school. And the purpose of our curriculum is to unite us with God into infinite joy. And those that reject their karma, they go to the University of Hard Knocks. And those that embrace their karma, they go to the University of Light and Joy. And it really just, it's a real crucial point in a person's life when they start to see everything is coming from God. You know, look at how people are that, don't view life in that way. They become cynical, they become angry, they want to blame the universe. But the devotee is soft and like a sponge, and just everything that comes to us, especially when we get on the spiritual path, comes for a purpose. And the guru sort of sifts through and say, my devotee doesn't need this, and it doesn't need that, but he really needs this for his liberation or her liberation. And so he sends that. And so it's especially crafted by Divine Mother and our guru, everything that comes. And so when we can embrace that fully with trust, then we can really learn from it. There's a beautiful story of a saint in India. When he was growing up, his grandmother was his guru. And he was a young boy at 8 years old. And she was trying to teach him about attachment. And so she said, I want you to sit in the rocking chair, and I'm going to try to pull you out and do your best to not let me. And so she was bigger than him, and so she pulled and pulled and pulled. He hung on as tightly as he could, and then finally she yanked him out. And he said, how did that feel? Well, it hurt, Grandma, if that's the right word they use in India for the grandmother. And she said, now I want you to sit in the rocking chair, and when I reach down to pull you out, I want you to just come up. And so she did, and she just grabbed him and supported him as he came up. She said, how did it feel now? And she said, well, it was easy, Grandma. And she said, that's attachment. Well, it's that way with experiences that come to us in life. And we have a lot of experience in that in the community. Everyone in this day and age especially, but throughout history, karma is going to come on its way. But Swami has called karma an expression of divine love. And why is that? There are many different things, but I was thinking of it more on a lower tier understanding of it. In the Taoists say that when things reach their limit, they go the other way. And we live in a world of duality, don't we? And if we could just express selfishness and or taking advantage of others and doing that as long as possible, we would get a lot of things. If there were no consequences, we'd just keep going in that direction, wouldn't we? But life swings us back. Duality, we have health, we have illness, we have joy, we have sadness. We experience the other side. And in a way, the Divine Mother's put sort of boundaries to our behavior through the law of karma so that we can learn the consequences pretty quickly, although maybe not always quickly, but so that we can see the consequences of our actions. In the reading today, it talks about God is not mocked. And I remember as a little boy, I had 3 other brothers, and we were all a year apart. And I had this philosophy of light that if I didn't get caught, I was okay. And so I would get my other, create some mischief. It was always mischievous things. And they would get going, and they couldn't control their energy, I guess, as well as I could. And so when it started to get out of hand, I would just sit there really quietly, and then my aunt, who we called the Sarge, would come in and bust all my 3 brothers. And then she finally got wise to me, and when she first met Anandi, she said, Joseph, he may, my other name, or Bharat, he may look innocent, but he was behind everything that happened. So God knows all. And you know, we of course we know that. In the schools years ago, we did an exercise that, in a way, shows how God kind of corrects and redirects us. It's called How Far. It was based on actual experience that a disciple of John Muir had. The snow fell on and knocked his snow goggles off, and he became snowblind. And he had to walk 10 miles without being able to see from the top of the Rocky Mountains to a cabin where he had left, and all without his sight. Well, we didn't ask the school children to do something like that, but what we did do is from the market lawn, we had them walk blindfolded all the way up to the guest retreat, Expanding Light. And they shuffled, and they had a walking stick, and we had them keep their feet close to the ground so they could hit the obstacles. But many times they went off course. And a teacher, of course, was there, and whenever they went off course, teacher would realign them and point them in the direction of where they wanted to go, and then they'd go off course again. And there was one boy who heard the Steller's jays in the pine trees. They like to hang out in pines. And so he kept his focus on those birds. And he went right up to the pines, and behind the pines was the meadow, and actually now the Temple of Light. And he just walked unerringly right to there. And years ago in the monastery, Anandi asked Seva, how do you develop discrimination? And Seva said, by always keeping your goal in front of you. And it's that same with karma. You know, we do it out of our love for God, and we aren't trying to avoid our karma, but by being absorbed in God and living for God. As Swamy talks in the Path about his chapter, God Protects the Devotee, he says, for all those that give their lives to God, God especially takes care of them. And he didn't know of one instant where God didn't come and take care of the devotees. And so Yogananda, he talked about how do we meet our karma? Calmly and pleasantly, he said. And why is that? If we're agitated and we resist the karma, it can't come to us. We can't be free of the karma. That's very obvious. But also, when we're relaxed with the karma, and when we stay positive and our energy is uplifted, we're on a different place of reality. You know, karma is created by the ego. And Swamy talks about karma is like a complete circle. We initiate energy, and it goes halfway around, and then that same energy comes back to us and completes the circle and comes back to us, the same quality of energy. And so what we need to do is lift our consciousness, because that karma is generated from a certain level of consciousness of the ego. And when we can transcend it and get on the level more of spirit, like, you know, when we do Hong Sa, because we're in duality, we have the physical breath, inhalation, exhalation, and we're just living in duality, but we're affirming, I am spirit, through the mantra Hong Sa. And we come to a point of stillness. And in that stillness, the ego just fades away. And we start to experience the joy of God. And, you know, we all have heard the expression, when you're in Om, nothing can touch you. Well, Om is a pristine vibration, and it's beyond duality. And karmic law works in the realm of duality. And when we transcend that level of consciousness, then things can't touch us. Now, of course, things will come and touch us, but they're reduced and they're guided by God. And the more that we can affirm our unity with God through the experience, the freer we'll become. There's somebody once asked Swami Kriyananda, you know, or Swami was mentioning to this woman that I've had an easy life. I can't think of anything that's gone wrong, or you know, I just had a wonderful life. And the woman said, oh my God, you know, as starting the community, the fire, and listed all these other things. And Swami goes, oh, yeah, but he was living, you know, deeply in the spine, in deep joy. And he's, you know, he had to sort of be reminded about all these outer things because his reality was there. There's a beautiful story about Lahiri Mahashai. He had gone to the bathing ghats in the Ganges in the city of Varanasi, and he was walking back, and his disciple, who was trailing behind him, he asked him to tear a piece of cloth from his dhoti and to make a bandage. And then the disciple was kind of curious. And then a cart came by, and a stone came and hit and created a large gash in his leg. And so Lahiri bandaged his leg. And the disciple asked, well, if you knew that this was going to happen, why didn't you avoid the stone? And Lahiri said, karma has to come. And so he just allowed it. And then when he got home, Lahiri's wife was sort of said, what happened? And they mentioned that a stone had hit his leg, and she sort of laughed because Lahiri was so absorbed in God that he wrapped the wrong leg with a bandage. And, you know, we've all had a lot of things happen to us in our lives, and we can find a point of freedom when we just quietly and heartfelt and embrace the karma. I remember just before I was going on a week or several week trip, a lecture trip to Europe, I was standing on a tall ladder about 8 feet up, and I was trimming some limbs. And the ladder fell, and I fell, and I blanked out, and then I kind of woke up, and I was sort of stunned, and I couldn't move my body, and I was just looking at the trees and the sky, and just sort of wondering, well, what will this bring? and then I remembered what Swamy said, and I said that, this earlier in this sermon today, that karma is an expression of divine love. And so I went into that thought, and you know, and quickly I said, okay, Master, I'm with you. And it's just an instantaneous thought that we have, because we know that it's through His grace, and that we're protected, and whatever God sends to us, we're happy with, because we know the blessing that will come from that. And there's a story of a woman, devotee of Master, and she was having cancer surgery. And she woke up, and they had sort of stopped the anesthetic too early. And so she woke up with just terrific pain, and she had all kinds of tubes and wires, you know, in her body, and it was just horrendous pain, and she couldn't say anything, and then they told her that the cancer couldn't be operated on, and that they'll make her as comfortable as she could, but it was just a living hell for her, and she didn't want to. She was prepared to die, and actually happy to die if that was God's will. But she didn't want to die that way. She wanted to die embracing the light, positive, and not feeling that life was a living hell. And so she's told Master, you know, come to me. I've always wanted to live by your will and see everything is coming from you. But come. I don't want to leave you this way. And so Master came to her and said that I will help you, and this is what I want you to do. I want you to see everything, every tube that's in your body, every IV, every doctor, nurse, every pain that you feel. I want you to get to a point of feeling gratitude for it. And so she said that she felt like she was on a ladder at the very, very bottom in the darkness. And she started practicing feeling gratitude for everything she experienced, everything. And it took a process of several hours, but as she kept affirming each thing with a sense of love and a sense of surrender, she felt herself climbing that ladder, more and more coming into the light. And eventually she got to a point where she was just in a state of love. She had experienced that love in the beginning, but she had to do the work to really make it her own, and with that sense of gratitude. And it said that all the doctors and nurses at the hospital made excuses to visit with her, and she could feel everybody's prayers for her, and she was praying for everybody. And they said that the hospital is never going to be the same after your stay with us. And she was prepared to go, but she said that I would like to meditate more and to help other people. And Master gave her that wish, and she became a great, great inspiration for people after that. But that came from totally embracing the karma that came to her. It was a very incredible challenge for her, but one that God and Guru felt that she could rise to. It said, God never gives us more than we can handle. And so we have to remember that, because things may look tough, and they can be tough, but it's just so that we can rise in our energy level. Isn't that so? And really, karma takes us into new territory and new vistas. It releases our limitations and helps us see life in a much more profound way, where Master said that he likes, he works with stubborn people. And when you think of, we may have had 5 million lifetimes in our career as a soul, we can be pretty stubborn, and sometimes it takes a whole year, a whole lifetime to work on one quality. But as we become serious on the path, we know this is true, don't we? That God is trying to really work with us to be free. That's what's holding us back. And we don't know what's holding us back all the time, but the Guru knows. And so he will send things to us. And sometimes I remember talking with someone who felt like this process was too long and too intense, and she just wanted to sort of bail out, this karma was coming. And I said, it's like you're on the surgery table with Master, and he's operating on you, and he's halfway through, and then you throw the bed clothes aside and say, I'm out of here. But he's only halfway done with this. And sometimes when things take a long time, it's a process that is really rooting out everything. Everything needs to go. And if we can, again, cooperate with that, we'll feel a tremendous feeling of freedom and inner joy, which I'm sure we've had when we've gone through this experience. I'm sure we've all had this experience many, many times. And so when we go into the stillness of God, the Master said, no karma reverts back to us. And so whenever we chant, we affirm, that we're spirit, then what we're doing is we're nullifying that karma, because that karma was created on the lower level of the ego. But when we lift our minds up into spirit, then the karmic law doesn't apply anymore. It may need to come, and it does come, but it won't be with the same intensity, and there'll be more the hand of the Guru behind it that we can more easily see. There was a period of time in my life where I was experiencing one karmic bomb, I guess you'd have to say, after another. And it just seemed sort of relentless, and it was over some years and stuff. And I wanted to have a visualization that I could use in accepting my karma. And so I wrote this, and I'd like to have you sit upright, close your eyes, and visualize it. Karma is an expression of divine love. Everything that comes to us is made especially for us by God to free us from all limitation. Visualize God as a divine mother standing before you. See her eyes gazing deeply into your own, filling you with her love. Know that she is with you always. Think now of a karma that is challenging you, that is challenging for you. See Divine Mother holding before you this karmic test. See her smile as she reaches out and offers this test to you with loving kindness. Reach out your arms and take hold of this karma. Bring this karmic challenge into your heart. Accept this precious gift sent from the wisdom of the universe. Know that it is a perfect gift sent by Divine Mother to help your soul become free. In your heart, embrace this karmic test fully with gratitude and trust. This karma can help you to raise your energy and consciousness to the level on which your godly nature resides. Focus now at the point between the eyebrows. See yourself rising to meet this karmic test and transcending its limitations. See yourself becoming free in God. Feel the bliss of being united with Spirit.
Sweet songs of sadness, of quenchless yearning for your light, for my love, your true home. Long your heart has played the dancer, long you've toyed with mirrorless shadows of the treasures left behind you, deep in your soul. Long you've plumbed the dark for answers, long you've begged from beggars' empty hands, gifts of life they too were seeking, gifts none could share. Friend, how long will you wander? Friend, as long as you seek your home in a land where all are strangers, love locks the door. Leave to the weak his craven life, to the coward leave his dreaming. Oh, my saint, wake up, reclaim the light, seek the truth behind all seeming. Leave to the weak his craven life, to the coward leave his dreaming. Oh, my saint, wake up, reclaim the light, seek the truth behind all seeming. Turn, turn, turn within, in silence of soul, in cave of love, find my abode. Listen, listen, whispering within your soul, hints of laughter, hints of joy, sweet songs of sadness, of quenchless yearning.